Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you're all having a great week. My name is Kristen Williams. I'm the Dealer Development Manager here at Dealer Pro Training. We are the largest fixed operations training company in North America. We've got 8 regional trainers with our company and 3 director level trainers that cover the US and Canada. So we are thrilled to have you here once again. And I've got down here a link. I can't tell you how helpful these webinars have been for all of us. And we've got 8 weeks worth of content that we have scoured from other vendors, from NADA, and from our own dealer base, our customers, our alumni dealers, best practices, and kind of some outside the box thinking on making this transition as we are, and it's changing daily and weekly. So I would strongly encourage those of you that are new this week to go back and review our archive. There's 7 other weeks in addition to this one of good content. And it's always good refresher also from a leadership standpoint. We had some leadership information for fixed ops professionals in those first couple weeks. You can also find it on YouTube at Dealer Pro, the Dealer Pro channel. Dealer Pro's all one word, space, training on YouTube is the best place to find it. So I'm going to review a few things here up front. And one of the things I want you to consider is every state is in a different phase. We're in phase 1, phase 2. Some of us will be in phase 3 of the reopen. But I want you to think about where you are, your service and parts department, and maybe even your own leadership skills and your team. What phase is your service department in? And I'm not necessarily talking about your reopen, but let's take a look at where we started 8 weeks ago. And this is kind of what I'm referring to. Anytime you look at challenging environments, there's kind of 4 transitions that we go through. And the first one is denial. So several weeks ago when we were all hit with this virus, and you could definitely, hear a different sense, a different tone from people. We're kind of in denial, right? We're in disbelief that this is happening. We kind of think it's going to blow over, go away. Can't even possibly imagine that schools would be closed and businesses would be closed and we'd be asked to stay at home. We question the need for these changes, and then we just kind of continue working as usual. And then from that phase, we moved to maybe a resistance phase. I know folks that I talked to definitely were in that space, worried before we learned about the PPP money. We're negative. We didn't really know what to tell our employees or even our customers. And from a personal standpoint, we were focused on, what's the impact going to be to me and my family, to my customers, to my dealer, and are we going to be able to maybe stay open? And so productivity dipped at that point, and we started to see the real results of some of these actions and accommodations we were having to make. So hopefully you are moving through this process and should be in one of these last 2 categories, which is exploration. So we start to seek out information and answers. We've learned there's no magic wand here. What am I going to have to do to continue to service the customers we're getting in service with a skeleton crew? What am I going to do while we're shut down? How am I going to communicate with our customers and our employees? So you start to experiment and you take risks. Many of you have used us as that resource, and we've used other resources as well to find new ideas and ways of doing things. But some of you are going to be building your own processes, and we're hoping to share again more information this week that will help you along in getting creative and giving customers what they want. We want to help you get to this phase, which is the commitment phase. You've explored some new ideas, you've jotted some down. Are you actually putting them into place? Are you implementing them and executing them? So accepting the change, developing new roles. Maybe you've got some folks whose job duties are going to change. Maybe it's permanent. Maybe compensation plans need to be adjusted at this point. Start focusing on the future. You should already be building that action plan for the next 3 months for your fixed operations. Set new goals for your team, set new goals for yourself as a manager or a dealer, and come up with those action plans. The priorities that you had way back at the end of February or March. I mean, our company was right in the middle of an exciting year. So those priorities you had in first quarter probably going to change. What are your new priorities? So make sure as a leader that you are developing those, you're prepared to execute them, and you're communicating them to your employees and your customers. So if they're not if your customers aren't in your drive right now, where are they? And we talked a little bit about this last week, and I had some great statistics for you then, and we've got some more this week. When you look at the numbers, these were numbers that were put out there by Facebook. So there are hotspot states, and then there's some states that are less affected. And they asked customers from a consumer confidence standpoint, what percentage of you are going to be staying put and aren't going to be shopping and making purchases like normal? So in states like New Jersey and New York, 30% of customers say that they are staying put and they're not making consumer purchases. And that kind of jives with a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from dealers. You know, our business is down about 30%. But I would say we've seen worse than that, and we've seen a little bit better than that in some other markets. And then in states that are less affected, like Mississippi and North Carolina, Facebook shows that 20% of customers say that they're staying put. And so these are pretty significant numbers. It doesn't mean that they have stay-at-home orders necessarily. What this means is, what is their level of confidence in going out there, in doing their normal shopping errands and shopping runs? And so that's a lot of people that are staying put. Can we tap into those people and get them to come out and shop? And then they say luxury lines are taking a harder hit than the domestics. Obviously, the thinking behind that goes, they've got more disposable income, they're in a better position to purchase luxury line vehicles, and they also happen to be an older population. They may feel like they're more high risk, and so on. So that's the thinking behind that. But the number that really is what I want to talk about and have you think about is 29%. This is a separate study done by Cox Automotive just this April. When they ask customers if they would be getting service, because our service departments by and large across the country have remained open, 29% of customers said that they would delay getting service for their vehicle unless it's an emergency. I think that's a number that we need to look at and consider. Are we willing to do some proactive things to get those customers in the door? It doesn't mean that they're paralyzed at home, that they're suffering from the virus, that they're extremely fearful. It's just saying it's not a huge priority for them. I can completely relate to that. We're not out and about doing our normal shopping, maybe our errands on Saturday, getting your hair cut. I know when I get my hair cut, I happen to stop by a pet supply store because it's not always convenient, and it's right next door. So I hit that place whenever I get my hair cut, and I'm not doing that. So could I get some things at the pet supply store? Yeah, but it's on my to-do list, but not a huge priority. I think there's tons of potential for you to get those customers back in the door. Whether you take 10% or you get 15% of that number or even 20%, those are all numbers we need right now. If you're in that denial phase, even in the exploration phase right now, you need to start thinking about getting committed to getting these customers in your door. Stop being flat-footed. And I'm going to be real candid here and say, I've had a lot of conversations with dealers in California, in Illinois, down south. I talked to a dealer actually here in Ohio, and they're all just waiting for the customers to come back. I had one FixedOps director tell me that he felt like, we're 30 days out and then the doors are just going to bust wide open because of all this pent-up demand. And it's a great theory, and we agree with that to a certain extent. But what happens when you have pent-up demand and you have more customers than what you can service? I know many of you have been in that boat before, especially in the summer months. So now you're just shooting yourself in the foot again. You're going to have this pent-up demand and you're going to turn people away. Get out there and get out there now and be proactive about inviting these customers in the door. So we're not going to get into detail about this particular action item today, but last week in the forum, we mentioned doing outbound calls. And I can't stress enough, if you talk to any folks in the industry right now, they're also talking about making those outbound calls, inviting customers, just giving them information. What are your hours? Here's when our high-risk folks can come in. Here's what we're doing to disinfect and sanitize. Here's our current specials. And so just share information with them. And then, you close that conversation with, by the way, did you know we can do an oil change today for you at X amount of dollars? If you don't change and pursue them, someone else will. We have had the aftermarket consistently take customers from the automobile retail market hand over fist, year over year for many years now. This is another area where the aftermarket can capitalize. What are they going to do better or different that we're not doing? And capture those customers while we're standing flat-footed and just waiting for them to come back in the door. Yeah, we're wearing masks, or we allow them to drop their keys in the night drop. We're talking about really pushing on your digital marketing and your communications with your customers, and really making a much bigger impact and being proactive at getting them in the door. So here are this is no joke, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I look up dealerships on a daily basis. So as far as my Google search habits, Google should recognize me as somebody who is frequently, quote unquote, shopping at automobile dealerships. However, when I type the search words, pickup and delivery for auto repair services, the first 10 search results I got were all independent shops. There was not one car dealership in there. So whether or not it makes sense for you to offer pickup and delivery, we're just suggesting, keep it in mind, consider it. Again, NADA has impressed upon the importance of that for many years. You have to remember what's convenient for your customers is what matters. How can you better meet their needs right now? So this is National Transmissions and Auto Care Centers out of Florida. This was one of the top searches that popped up. It's right on their homepage, located in West Palm Beach, free pickup and delivery to your home or office. Next one, this is one out of St. Louis. It's a one-shop stop. They don't have any other locations. Car Dock Automotive on their homepage, free pickup and delivery, no hassle car service and repair. Another one, this is in Spring, Texas, Milstead Automotive. Again, they've got, I think, 3 locations total. So these are not big operations that you're up against. Milstead Vehicle Pickup Service in Spring, Texas. Here in our local market, this is about 20 minutes north of us, vehicle pickup and delivery. They're called Oxford Automotive Care. They're offering pickup and delivery. And then the last one, this is Regency Auto Repair Paint and Body. They're in Houston, Texas. Big pickup drop-off convenience at their group. So again, we talked a lot more about free pickup and delivery last week. We'll touch a little bit on it today, but I thought this was an appropriate quote for this week. This is Steve Jobs, and he said, you can't look at the competition and say you're going to do it better. You have to look at the competition and say you're going to do it differently. And I would even say differently better. We do a lot of things so much better than an independent shop that we need to do, I think, a better job with some professional skills training for our advisors and our BDC folks of talking about the value-added services that we as automobile retail dealerships provide over and above what the aftermarket provides. The car washes, the vacuuming that you might do in the vehicles, the loaners that you provide, your staff, talking about your master certified technicians, and incorporating that into your words every day. And now you might have a complimentary disinfect or sanitize of their vehicle, the things that you do for the community. So getting differently better, you need to be committed. Remember, we're in that, if you get to that commitment phase, and you want to make some big changes, get committed to giving customers what they want. Right now, a big part of what they want is peace of mind and confidence in doing business with you. So some of the stores have implemented plexiglass dividers. You have to remember also, I've talked to, I would say more of the dealers that I've talked to this week than not, have told me they're not wearing masks. And I'm not particularly a person that feels mandated to wear a mask, but as you know, some of the retailers are recommending it, at least in Ohio, as you walk in, they're recommending it. And I know in some states, maybe you are mandated, but point being, you have to remember the care and concern that you show for your customer is really what we're trying to impress upon you here. They really appreciate this. Some dealerships already have reviews online with customers saying they really appreciated that their steering wheel was covered during the pickup and during the repair. They really appreciate that the advisor had a mask or so-and-so had gloves. Thank you for taking so much. Thank you for being so thoughtful. I've seen that posted. And so while these things may not be mandated in your area and maybe your customers aren't even coming in with masks, it's just going over and above and showing them the care and concern that you have for their well-being by making these small investments and efforts. Placing advisor stations outside. You can review the MPI outside. A lot of the stuff I hear in the news is, about outside is a better place to be versus, inside where all the germs tend to land. So that's another option that we've seen in some dealerships, putting advisor stations outside. BDC and appointment coordinators are playing a bigger role in many stores. They are making outbound calls. My local Chevy dealer here is made an outbound call to me. Setting up the pickup and delivery. Folks are having their appointment coordinators and BDC folks set up pickup and delivery, and then they turn that over to an advisor to take the phone/service drive process from there, talking to the customer over the phone, maybe about maintenance or a recall and things like that. So just want to reemphasize, you need to exceed your customers' expectations right now by showing care and concern. And remember, they're not walking in with a big sign that says, I'm really uneasy about all this. They're not going to say that. A lot of times when they're calling for issues about their vehicle, those are fear-based calls, but they're not coming out and saying that. But there is still a certain level of hesitancy and fear and awkwardness with what we're supposed to be doing, and how close am I allowed to get, and when you get maybe in that 6-foot range. So just again, make those small steps. And one that a couple dealers are doing is wiping down the keys as they hand them back to the customer. Again, just the act of showing that you're sanitizing the keys and handing it back is more personable maybe than a big plastic bag. Some folks are putting keys in plastic bags, but all right, and just a reminder, this Cox Automotive study, this was actually done pre-coronavirus. The number one desire of service customers is pickup and delivery. And so here are some more things to think about. You've got rideshare. Some folks are using Clutch. I know Xtime interfaces with Lyft. So if you're in the Xtime product, you can actually set a Lyft appointment for your customer to be picked up and brought to your service facility. There's also folks that are using that for their employees and having their employees hitch a ride on Uber to go do the pickup of the customer's vehicle. Now you don't have to designate 2 employees and 1 vehicle to driving to the customer's home to do that process. Your advisors and your new car sales reps are going to be more, in some stores, are becoming more of relationship builders where they're actually writing service part of the day and then they're going and doing the pickup and delivery the other part of the day. Pre-writing ROs. This is something Dealer Pro advocates every day of the week, every week of the year. If you're not pre-writing your ROs, now is a really beneficial time to do that. And the reason is because your advisors are going to be selling not only in the drive, but maybe more on the phone. So be prepared. There are folks that are also saying customers are wanting to be quick about these transactions. A couple dealers have shared that on the sales side of things, they feel like customers are rushing through the negotiation. The good news is they're not negotiating the vehicle price as much as they maybe normally would. And so there's not as much back and forth on that. But the bad news is they do feel rushed, and sometimes when you want to make that menu presentation, you feel like, they might even tell you, they want to just get out. So pre-write, be prepared. Send all possible documents electronically, the MPI, the menu, the RO. And again, we talked last week, the content last week about texting. So important to text. And I'll throw this out. I just learned this today. I got an email from a company called Digital Airstrike. Some of you may be aware of them. Right now, they're offering their customers 2 free months, so 60 days free of bulk texting. And you can send up to 4,000 customers a month. You can use it for sales or service, whatever you want to use it for. But if that's something that interests you, go check it out. All right, selling over the phone via text with video, sell at the customer's house. There are some folks that have talked about doing that during the pickup and delivery, so they still have a face-to-face interaction and they build that relationship with the customer. Service tracker, we have this at our Marco's Pizza here in my town, where you get a little dial when you order your pizza online, and so I can go to that link in my email that they confirm my pizza's been ordered, and every time I go to the link, it's just like UPS or FedEx tracking my package. There's service tracker products all over there now, and we would encourage you to look at these options. You may even have these in your current software and you're just not utilizing it. These are all services that customers say they love and they want to have access to on an ongoing basis. And then vehicle sanitizing and disinfecting services. This is something we've seen some offer it complimentary, and we've seen some charge the customer for it. Dealer I talked to this morning was charging $9.95, and he was using the Transform sanitize and disinfect product. So the investment in that is less than $1 per vehicle. It's very, very economical, and it does everything that you need it to do. And if you want more information on that, we're happy to share it with you. So I'm going to turn this over to Bill Horgan. He is one of our 3 directors of training, and he's going to start talking with you about more specifics about selling in the drive, selling over the phone with your customers.
Sorry, I'm trying to...
We can see your screen, just got to get it on your presentation mode.
Is it not there?
It's not on presentation.
Can you see that now?
No.
Oh, man, send it again. Share. Still not sharing, huh?
No, not unless somebody else can see something I can't, but there we go. You're on.
All right, thanks. All right, so one of the things, I apologize about that. One of the things obviously that we've been working on over the last few weeks is trying to be prepared for the way businesses are changing. And we're looking at a lot of our training materials. We're coming up with new products. We're changing our existing products to try and work in with the current times. And one of the first slides that we want to kind of go over is our traditional service drive process. And this is the process we train if we come into your stores. If you come into the Columbus, Ohio office, or if I go out and remotely do these workshops, this is our traditional service drive process. And the first thing is the preparation. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these bullets because we got a few things to go through here, but pre-appointment and preparation is being prepared before the customer gets there. The next one is a friendly meet and greet, and like it's going to be popping up on the next few slides. This is one of the main ones that's going to change dramatically. The meet and greet in a lot of cases isn't even going to be face-to-face anymore. It's going to be a lot different, so we got to figure out how are we going to handle that differently. And that also affects the next one, which is where we interview and investigate, which is we get that technician the proper information, but we're also building confidence in our customer. The fourth one is to confirm the customer's concerns, make sure that we got all the proper information. And then we talk about initiating a multi-point inspection and performing a walk-around. Well, you know, in talking about performing a walk-around, we've talked to a couple of dealers who aren't sure that they want to continue to do a walk-around without the customers being there. Well, obviously, you got to check the vehicle for body damage and other things. But I've also talked to some dealers who have said, I think it's even more important now, and it's also easier to maintain your social distancing doing a walk-around as opposed to having someone over at the service desk. Select a product or service, performing a feature benefit presentation, which is we're going to be talking about a little bit more in depth here in just a minute. And then doing trial close the sale, and performing an active delivery. The reason that we wanted to go through this is because a lot of these steps are going to need to change. What is an active delivery going to look like in the coming months? And I'm not sure that any of us have all those answers, but they're obviously going to change. And so in talking about the 3 phases of selling, one of the first phases of selling is a warm-up phase, where you build a relationship with the customer. Well, if you're picking up a vehicle and a porter goes to pick it up and brings it back, building that relationship is going to change dramatically. And so we have to realize that how you build that relationship is going to be much different. Your advisor is going to have to do it on the phone. They may have to do it in other ways. The other way is a value phase, and this is where you get your customer to start to listen to you. But people don't get to the value phase unless you do a decent job at the warm-up phase, so you really have to focus on that. And finally, we get into the closing phase, where you complete the sale by building trust with your customers. And that trust starts out with that warm-up, and then it gets into that value, and that's how you build that trust, where they start to listen to you and trust in you. So one of the things that in our 10-step service drive process, and the step number 7 is a feature benefit presentation. When I'm doing the training, one of the things I tell advisors all the time is what I think the single most important step you could focus on is a feature benefit presentation. I think meet and greet's important. I think a lot of the steps are important, but the feature benefit presentation is where you convince a customer that what you're saying is something that they truly need. It's where you're selling yourself, you're selling the products. And if I ask most service advisors, what is a feature benefit presentation? Most of them can't answer that for me. But features plus benefits equals value. Excuse me. And so what are features? Features are the warranty on the product that's purchased, the factory trained technician. It's the product itself that you're selling. It's the OEM part that they are installing. But what's most important to a customer when you're explaining all this stuff is how does it benefit the customer? And that's one of the things that most service advisors are not very good at explaining. I was in New Jersey probably a few months ago, and I asked a service advisor to write a feature benefit presentation on a cabin air filter, and she struggled writing it. And then I asked her if she needed any help, and she goes, I have no clue what a cabin air filter. She was a 10-year veteran. She had no clue what a cabin air filter are. So what you got to realize, nobody buys features. What they buy are benefits. How does that feature benefit me? And it's one of the most important things. So benefits is how it will benefit the customer. And one of the primary benefits are listed here. Safety. Is it going to make them safer? Is it going to make their vehicle more reliable? Is it going to save them money and be more economical? Is it going to perform better? Is it going to be more convenient for me to do it now or later? And of course, is it going to make my vehicle handle better? And one of the most important things I think you could teach your advisors to do is endorse the customer's decision to have their vehicle repaired, which is congratulating that customer for having that done. So when presenting any item to a customer, always explain the following 4 things in your presentation. And the first one is what is needed. That is the feature, what is needed. And this cannot be as simple as you need a cooling service. And because many customers don't understand what a cooling system service is. You may think that most people do, but they don't. So when you say you may need a cooling system service, a better explanation would be our technician performed the complimentary multi-point inspection on your vehicle, and he is recommending that we perform a cooling system service. He is suggesting that we flush out the coolant and replace it. That's what we're explaining. But excuse me, I'm gonna back up for a second. That is what is needed. Now, the next thing we got to explain in our sales presentations, and you should focus with your advisors on how to do this, is why it's needed. The technician noted that the fluid is discolored and tested, and it is no longer able to protect your engine the way it is supposed to. As coolant deteriorates, it becomes more acidic, and instead of protecting your cooling system, it actually starts causing damage and starts to parts of your cooling system like your radiator, water pump, and heater core. Now we just went through what is needed and why it's needed. Now the next step is what will happen if this is not done. And some people would look at this as being a way of scaring people. And I'm going to tell you, I don't believe that's the case. It's not fear selling if what we're telling a customer is the truth. If you don't do that, if you don't replace that tie rod end, you could lose control of your steering. Now, you probably don't want to use the word you could lose control of your steering and die. That might be a way of coercing a customer, but the main part is you could lose control. So in this instance here, letting it go for a period of time could cause coolant leaks, damage to your cooling system components, and in the worst case scenario, damage to your engine should it overheat. It's an extremely important step in there. And then the last 2 are benefits. The number 2 is a benefit, number 3 is a benefit, and number 4, that step is you got to ask for the sale. You got to ask for the sale. I can have a technician start that immediately and should have this completed in about an hour and a half. The price to do that's $149.99. I just need your okay to get started. You always want to use an assumptive close when you're closing the sale. You don't want to say the price is $149.99. Did you want me to do that? You want to say, I just need your okay to get started. It's called an assumptive close. So when we're selling to no contact customers, which is going to be a much more commonplace thing, I think, in the future, especially if we start pickup delivery, especially if we start using early bird and night drops to do that. And we're going to have different ways of no contact customers. That means there's no face-to-face opportunity. And that means you got to have a different sales strategy. And so you got to really ask yourself, are your advisors professionally trained to advise and sell over the phone? And it's a lot different than selling face-to-face. This next slide really points something out. There's a study, and I'm not sure exactly how this scientist figured this out, but he determined that people take in the message from others in three basic, there's three factors in how people take in that message. And as you could see from the graph, body language is about 55% in how someone takes in a message, how you take in messages from other people and how they take in messages from you. The other part is tone of voice, which is 38%. And the third one is words, and words are only 7%. I would tell you that I wasn't surprised that body language was so high, or that tone of voice was so high. But what surprised me more than anything was that the words were so low. Right now, as I'm training, my hands are moving, my body's moving. And one of the reasons I'm like that is because it helps me build my enthusiasm when I'm talking to you. If I was just sitting here reclining in the chair, my body language wouldn't be there. Well, my body language is there. So hopefully my tone of voice is a little bit stronger. But you got to realize words are one of the most important things. So when you're looking at these three factors, one of the things that we have to realize is if we're going to be doing a lot of more no contact deliveries, that means that body language is going away. And if it's 55% of the way you do things with people, you got to realize what a big deal that is to everybody involved. So as a BBC rep, appointment coordinator, or a service advisor, your words and tone of voice are even more important than an advisor's, because you don't have to have the benefit of that face-to-face communication with a customer. So when you're dealing with somebody over the phone, you got to realize that the words become much more important. You know, when you look at that graph there, and you see that 5% someone takes in your messages based off of their body language and 38% is off your tone, you certainly would make the assumption that body language is the single most important factor on there, and words the second most important factor. But I would tell you, one of the most important factor in a way is your words. And the reason why words represent only 7% of the total impact when communicating with your customers, but words are extremely important in building an employee's confidence. When your employee is asked a question and they know the answer, they're going to be much more confident. And so when an employee doesn't know what to say, their lack of confidence will show in their tone of voice and in their body language. Once they know what to say, and once we teach them what to say and their confidence builds, so will their body language and so will their tone of voice. And so memorize your words, and we teach people by using scripts, and their confidence will follow. And you know, a lot of people struggle with scripts, but I would tell you one thing from my personal experience is when you script people, their confidence builds. And I would also tell you this, almost every employee that works for you that deals with customers have scripted themselves already. When your service advisor approaches a customer to sell an air filter, they pretty much have that down because they've sold it so many times over and over and over again. Well, all we might ask is that they modify the script. And so one of the next important things is tone of voice. And that conveys feeling and intent. And so you got to really focus. I don't know if anybody's ever had the fortune or misfortune, depending on what it is, to hear yourself be recorded on phone or be recorded on video. I've heard myself, and I always think I sound a lot better when I'm not recorded on a video or an audio than I do when I am. But you got to realize that's a lot of that is your tone of voice. And tone of voice can be used to lighten up a conversation or get down to business. And you got to be careful, though, to only convey positive feelings with your tone of voice. It says people will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So you got to really focus on your tone of voice and your employee's tone of voice. as you're walking by, listen to what they're saying. It says tone of voice, 38%, tone of voice, inflection, volume, and pace of speech all influence how a customer views you. They will make judgments about your attitude, your willingness to help, and even your personality based on the way you speak. So you got to be very cautious and listen to your employees. So the message in your tone, are you professionally trained versus untrained? What's the difference? Are you enthusiastic? Are you excited or are you apathetic? Are you courteous or are you rude? Are you patient or do you sound like you're in a big hurry and you just want to get rid of that person right now? Or are you excited or you're annoyed? And then are you helpful, trying to help the customer, or you just seem uninterested? And all of these can be conveyed with your tone of voice. Are you showing understanding or are you showing indifference to the customers? And so these are all things you got to teach people to do, because some of these things don't come naturally to everybody. So let's talk about a couple of word tracks in selling to maintenance customers. One of the things we were talking about is now that we're going to be, if customers are dropping off the vehicle, a lot of that meet and greet, a lot of that interview and investigate are going to happen over the phone now, because if I put my vehicle in an early bird envelope, or if I drop the keys off with a no contact delivery, and you're going to probably have to contact that customer by phone and go through things. So that's some of our new word tracks that we're working on. We're trying to come up with some different ideas, and we're coming up with new things every day. And so, hello, Mr. Jones, this is Bill from ABC Dealership, and I wanted to touch base with you about the vehicle to make certain we take care of all of your needs properly today. I see that you're coming in for an oil change and tire rotation. We did not have you down for anything else. Is that correct? So on this next slide, one of the things it brings up is, do they need recalls? It says check for recalls, and there's a really important reason to do this. Now, this is a customer, obviously, who's just coming in for maintenance. I'm not going to touch on why it's so important to do this until I get to another slide or two away. There's no recalls due. I wanted to let you know I checked with your manufacturer of your vehicle to see if there are any recalls. And the good news is there are no recalls on your vehicle at this time. There is a reason with are any recalls, and the good news is there is a recall on your vehicle and we should be able to take care of that today for you while it's here. So there's a purpose to doing this, because on the next slide it says I also checked to see what maintenance is due, and it appears that you are getting done exactly what is due at this time, which is an oil change and a tire rotation. But the next one, so on your next visit, besides the oil change and a tire rotation, it looks like you'll be due for an air filter and cabin air filter. I just wanted to let you know now, so there are no surprises in the future. I'm going to forward to your email a maintenance schedule so you can review it. I think one of the single most important things you could do is be able to forward to your customers a link to a maintenance schedule or a maintenance schedule so they can see it and they start selling themselves on it. On the next slide is the one I want to touch base on. I'm going to refer back to the recall slide in a second. It says, so now there is additional maintenance due. So I also checked to see what maintenance is due, and it appears there is some additional maintenance that's due at this time. There are 2 different filters due to be replaced at this time if you haven't had them replaced already. I think that's an extremely important statement to add to the very end of that statement, because if you tell somebody they need an air filter, many of them may have replaced themselves. So what's the purpose of checking for the recalls? Well, it builds credibility when I get to here. If I said to you, I checked with the manufacturer, I checked with Ford Motor Company and found out that there are no recalls on your vehicle. I also checked to see what maintenance is due, and it appears that there is some additional maintenance that's due at this time. It lends more credibility to me saying you're going to need maintenance at this point. Your air filter filters the air that's coming into the engine, which prevents damage to your engine. A plug air filter can reduce power and cause running concerns with your vehicle. You're also due for a cabin air filter. This filter filters the air you breathe coming into the passenger compartment through your heating and air conditioning system. It filters out dirt and pollen down to 3 microns, and if it becomes plugged, it reduces airflow into the passenger compartment and puts added stress on the fan. The last thing in the world you want is for that fan to fail on a hot summer day. We can replace both these filters and change your oil and rotate your tires for $139.95. I just need your okay to get started. And then you also mentioned, I will forward to your email a maintenance schedule so you can review it. It's just letting the customer know that you're doing. So, as always, our technicians will perform a complimentary multi-point safety inspection on your vehicle, and I will call you with the results. We also provide complimentary car wash and will disinfect your vehicle at no charge after the service is completed. So now that would be a maintenance customer. Our next customer that's going to come up is a repair customer, and we would tell you probably should treat them slightly differently. And so with a repair customer, Mr. Jones, this is Bill from ABC Dealership, and I want to touch base with you about your vehicle and make certain we take care of all your needs properly. Same exact thing. I see that you're coming in for a check engine light. We did not have you down for anything else. Is that correct? Same recall script, so I'm not going to go through and explain them, but we're doing it for the same reason. It's going to build credibility if we recommend maintenance down the road. So in this instance, I also checked to see what maintenance is due, and it appears that you are due for some maintenance. But I'm sure you want to have a better understanding of what is causing your check engine light concern before we discuss that with you. And so in the meantime, I will forward you to your email a maintenance schedule so you can review it. So the purpose of this is a lot of customers would take offense if you tried to sell them a big maintenance service before you know exactly what's causing their check engine light on. What I would suggest to you is I think it makes a ton of sense to let the customer know, and then if you forward them that maintenance schedule, they can start selling themselves on it. And then when you do make a call, our technicians will perform a multi-point safety inspection on your vehicle, and I will call you with the results. And at that time, I'll review the maintenance schedule with you. As always, we will wash and disinfect the vehicle after the service is completed. So lastly, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things before Kristen, and that's called some overcoming objections. And probably the two most common objections we hear in service departments is, I can't afford that, or I don't have time for that. There are some others we hear, certainly, but one of the two most common ones is, I can't afford that, or I don't have time for that. And while we have multiple different ways of teaching advisors to overcome some of these different objections, we don't have the time to go through all of those today. So we're just going to give you one of the most simplest ones. And if a customer says to you, I don't have the time for that, if you just teach your advisors to say, are you sure? And keep their mouth shut, what's that do? It makes the customer think, he really thinks this is important. I can't afford that. Are you sure? What does the customer think? This is important. Maybe I need to rethink that. So it's a really simple one. It's one of the simplest ones you could teach anybody on overcoming, I don't have time for that, or I can't afford that. We did look at maybe a new one that we're going to be hearing a little bit more often, and that's that I can't afford that, I was just laid off. And I imagine, there's a lot of people out there in a lot of dealerships who are working fewer hours, less hours, getting paid less. And so how can we teach our advisors to handle that in a way that shows compassion and sensitivity towards our customers? And we've kind of come up with this. I can certainly understand that, Mr. Customer. My hours and pay were cut dramatically also during the pandemic. And if someone were to tell me the same thing right now, I'd struggle to pay for it too. However, letting something like this go without any attention will only get more expensive down the road because of the damage that may occur to these two other components. I know this will be difficult for you, but if it were my vehicle and I could find a way, I wouldn't wait another day and I'd get it done right now. So it says, build value with your customers in new ways and rev up your service sales. Kristen, did you have anything else you wanted to go over?
I will just close out with a couple things real quick here. Let me see if I'm pulling up my slides. Okay. So yeah, just to recap some of the things we talked about, what phase are you in? Are you in the commitment phase to really move forward, set some new goals, provide some conveniences and processes and new ways of doing things that really satisfy your customers and exceed their expectations, above and beyond, your nice facilities, your coffee bars and your Wi-Fi and things like that. And delivering those exceptional experiences will come back to you exponentially in the months and even years to come, as long as you continue to pursue these customers, get them into your store. And just another friendly reminder about generating some outbound calling to get customers back in. If you can just pull 10% of those folks to come back into your store sooner rather than later, it has to pay off. And if you don't, who is? Someone else around you might be capturing those customers while you're just kind of waiting for them to get ready to come on into the store. In fact, I was just telling my neighbor, if a plumber called me today, I've got a laundry list of things, of to-dos that I want to do. And I've got a couple minor issues with some fixtures. And if someone was reaching out to me, I need that nudge right now to take advantage of people and what they're offering and making purchases, the things that I can't get done on Amazon or online. So if you were a car dealer and you just called to check in on me and offer your oil change special or something like that, we need that nudge. So be the nudge that your customers need to get them into your store sooner rather than later. And then just to recap, we have enjoyed being a resource for you these last 8 weeks. We are going, is it not showing the right slide? What slide do you all see? Bill, what slide do you see? Do you see your picture? Okay, thanks. Someone's texting me. All right. So if you need help in this transition, we've gotten such terrific feedback. We really want to be of help to you. So this is a one-time only opportunity. We're taking our 3 directors of training, Bill, Rod, and Kevin. They're going to be hitting the road. You can make this this purchase in May, and we'd like to get them out there late May, early June. It's 3 days in dealership training, no travel expenses, and it's 50% off of our director level rates. So it is for new customers only, and it's a one-time package offering. We're offering it to a limited number of dealerships. And again, you can purchase in May, and we can deliver the training in June if need be. But we're here to help any way we can. So another way to get some information is to go to our website at dealerprotraining.com. There are the archived webinars that we've been doing on Fridays. So I want to mention, if you haven't been on all of our webinars, I promise you next week will be chock full of best practices and ideas. We're going to take the entire 8 weeks that we've accomplished thus far and pull the best of that information for you. So it's a total FixedOps resource guide for you to drive more traffic and sales during, through, after COVID-19. And we will again kind of scour our resources to continue to add to that. And then we'll give it a break, and we might continue doing these online forums monthly with you. If there's anything we can do, you can email me at kwilliams@dealerprotraining.com. Bill's email is bhorgan@dealerprotraining.com. So get out there, think outside the box, develop some great new goals, and good luck, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Kristen.